Today we're diving into the Darkflame Cleft to take on the Candle King and find out what lurks below. 1 minute boss guides for Darkflame Cleft for Season 2, let's go. This is a hectic ad cleave fight, and most DPS's wet dream. Old Waxbeard will constantly summon waves of ads through his call to arms mechanic. While these ads can be killed by players, most environmental damage will also delete these mobs. If these mobs successfully melee their target, they will apply a stacking bleed. Any DPS player being fixated will want to kite these ads onto the rails, since the minecart will kill them. You can tell which minecart rail will be active based on the orange glow. Tanks, just be aware of the Rock Buster. This does high physical damage. The main mechanic here is Reckless Charge, and it's going to target a random player and will have the boss charging them shortly after. This charge knocks players around and does high AoE damage. Smart players will actually be able to hide behind a pillar to cancel this mechanic. While this is a great strat at the time of recording this video, chances are Blizzard will fix it. Last but not least, when an underhanded Tractix minecart spawns, all players should focus this cart down or it will lead to a group wipe. Repeat these mechanics and eventually Old Waxbeard will fall. Blazikon remains in a static position in the center of the room. This fight has some very cool mechanics where players need to control what candles are lit and extinguished. Starting the encounter, tanks, just be in melee range. I recommend being within the hitbox indicator on the ground here. If you leave melee, your group will quickly wipe. The rest of the encounter is pretty much on your party to handle. Players will be targeted by Wick Lighter Barrage. Players targeted will want to run over as many candles as possible, and the ideal number is about 4, but the more the merrier. Immediately after this, the boss will cast Enkindling Inferno. This will apply a nasty debuff that stacks based on the amount of candles that are unlit by players. Shortly after this, the boss will cast Extinguishing Gust at all party members that aren't the tank. These players are going to want to be standing in a line between the boss and a lit candle. When the cast completes, a strong wind gust will head straight towards all targeted players and will extinguish any candles hit. This is important because the last thing the boss will do is cast Incite Flames, which will cause fire pools to spawn on the ground between the boss and the lit candles. Players need to then move to a safe space, and this is why hitting those candles are important. Then the fight just simply rinses and repeats. The Candle King is a rot type encounter, testing the strength of your healer and your group's ability to control the output of the boss. This boss will start the encounter by spawning wax molds of each player. These molds will deal periodic damage to all players, and all damage is increased for each mold that is currently active. These wax molds spawn near players, so you can be pretty proactive about their spawns. The boss will then target a player with Darkflame Pickaxe. This targeted player will need to stand behind one of these molds so that the pickaxe, once tossed, connects with the mold, destroying it. If you don't happen to do this, the player will be stunned instead. Following this, the boss will then cast Throw Darkflame. This will target 3 random players with circles, and those players need to stand near wax molds. You'd want to try to hit as many of these wax molds as possible to give your healer a break. When these wax molds are hit by this mechanic, they will melt, taking up floor space. Do your best not to stand in this melted wax, but it's not necessarily lethal if you take a tick or two. And that's pretty much this little dance, just over and over. The only thing players need to watch out for is the Paranoid Mindcast. You want to make sure you're kicking this at all costs, or your entire party will be feared. The Darkness is the final boss of the instance and requires your group to keep the candle lit. If you fail to do so, your entire group will succumb to darkness. Your goal is to pick up the wax lumps around the room that spawn throughout the fight to continuously restore the candle's heat. Any mechanics that hit the candle will deplete its energy, along the fact that it naturally depletes over time. Anyways, the fight starts off with a Shadow Blast. This is going to target a random healer or DPS player. This player needs to move out away from the candle and use a defensive. Umbral Slash is a frontal that always aims at the candle, attempting to hit it. At this point, the tank or any player will want to pick up the candle by using their extra action button and move it to the side or behind the boss. After this, the boss will call Dark Spawn. This is a channeled ability that calls ads to the candle. Kick this immediately and then cleave or focus down the ads. These mobs will attempt to cast Drain Light, attempting to plunge your group into darkness. Last but not least, the boss will cast Eternal Darkness, dealing heavy group damage and depleting the candle's heat with each tick. The healer should prepare for this damage, and this is a really good time for the tank to run out and grab a wax lump. Ranged DPS and tanks should focus on reheating the candle throughout the fight, so your healer can focus on keeping everyone alive, since when you aren't in the candle, you have reduced damage and healing by 99%. The darkness flees once brought to 50% health. And just like that, you've survived your journey through the Darkflame Cleft. If you like this video, be sure to subscribe. It's free and you can always change your mind later. A massive shout out to all my Patreon supporters, because without them, I wouldn't be making content like this. I hope you're all staying happy, healthy, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Peace.